The diner buzzed with the low hum of conversation, the smell of fresh coffee, and the faint clatter of forks against plates. It was just another quiet Sunday morning in the small town of Crestview. The kind of morning when the world seemed safe, predictable, and calm, until it wasn't. At the corner booth by the window sat an elderly woman in a pale blue cardigan. Her hands trembled slightly as she stirred her coffee, her eyes darting nervously toward the man sitting opposite her. He was younger, mid-40s, with a rough beard, tattoos crawling up his neck, and a cold, watchful stare. Every time she spoke, he leaned in a little too close, whispering something that made her shoulders shrink. Most people didn't notice. They were too lost in their pancakes, their phones, or their own conversations. But one man did. At the counter, U.S. Marine Sergeant Ethan Cole sat with his German Shepherd, Rex, at his feet. Ethan was a man who noticed things, the way someone's hands twitched, the sound of a forced laugh, the kind of fear that couldn't be faked. Years of combat had trained him to see danger before it happened. And right now, every instinct screamed that something was wrong. Rex lifted his head, ears twitching, sensing his handler's tension. Ethan's gaze returned to the elderly woman. She looked up suddenly, and their eyes met. For the briefest moment, she blinked, once, twice, 3 times, then subtly placed her napkin on the table, upside down. Ethan froze. That was no accident. That was an old distress signal. He'd seen it before, used by victims in hostage or trafficking situations when they couldn't speak freely. Rex gave a low growl. Ethan took a deep breath. His mind began to calculate exits, number of people inside, the suspect's body language, potential weapons. The man across from the woman wasn't eating. He kept one hand under the table, and his eyes scanned the room too often for a casual lunch. Something was off. Ethan stood, threw a few bills on the counter, and stretched as if to leave. But his eyes never left the booth. Rex rose with him, tail low, muscles tense. As Ethan walked past, the woman looked up again, her lips trembling. She whispered something, barely audible. "Help, please." That was all he needed. Ethan's voice stayed calm as he stopped by the booth. "Ma'am, sorry to interrupt," he said with a polite smile. "Did you drop this?" He handed her a small napkin, blank, but folded with the Marine Corps insignia showing. Her eyes widened. She understood. The man across from her scowled. "We're fine. Mind your business." Ethan smiled wider. "Sure. Just thought I'd check." Then, turning slightly, he reached down to Rex. "Easy, boy." Rex gave a low, deliberate bark, the kind of bark trained to draw attention. Heads turned across the diner. The tension shifted like a current. The suspect stiffened, suddenly aware that eyes were on him. "Let's go," he hissed to the woman, grabbing her wrist. Ethan's tone dropped its warmth. "Let her go. Now." The man's hand moved under the table, too quick. Ethan reacted faster. In one motion, he stepped forward, kicked the table away, and Rex lunged, clamping his jaws on the suspect's forearm before he could pull out the small pistol he'd been hiding. The diner erupted in gasps. Coffee spilled, chairs scraped. Ethan moved fast, twisting the man's wrist, disarming him and pinning him to the floor while Rex held him in place. "Call 911, Ethan barked. Within moments, police sirens wailed in the distance. The woman sat trembling, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I didn't think anyone would notice," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her, his voice gentle now. "Ma'am, you did exactly what you had to. You were brave." As the officers arrived and took the man away, the story began to unfold. The suspect was her estranged son-in-law, a man with a record of abuse and threats. He'd shown up that morning, demanding money and threatening her daughter's safety if she didn't comply. She'd been too scared to cry for help, but she remembered reading years ago about silent distress signals, how flipping an item or making eye contact could save a life. That tiny act of courage had drawn the attention of a Marine who still carried the instinct to protect. Outside the diner, the morning sun had risen higher, washing the parking lot in gold. The woman walked out slowly, Rex beside her, his fur brushing against her hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "Both of you." Ethan smiled. "Rex gets most of the credit," he said, scratching the dog's neck. The woman chuckled weakly. "I think you both do." Ethan offered her a ride home, and she accepted. During the drive, she told him about her late husband, a Navy veteran who used to say, "The world's still full of good people, you just have to spot them." Ethan looked at her with quiet respect. He was right, ma'am. You just have to be brave enough to signal when you need them. That day, the story of the silent SOS at Crestview Diner spread through the town. People began to share it online, teaching others how to recognize silent distress signals. Police departments started awareness campaigns. Lives were saved, all because one elderly woman refused to give up hope, and one Marine still believed in doing what was right, even off the battlefield. As the sun set that evening, Ethan stood outside his home, watching Rex chase the last of the light. He thought about how simple gestures, an upside-down napkin, a look in someone's eyes, could bridge the gap between danger and rescue. Sometimes, heroes don't wear capes. They just happen to be sitting in the right diner, at the right time, with a loyal dog by their side, and a heart that still listens when someone silently cries for help.